Hello, good afternoon. We've had to delay the midday news by a few minutes because of a three-business, economic and sustainability summit currently ongoing at the Marriott Hotel in Accra. Welcome to the bulletin from the news hub here at Adisawi Kanda in Accra. It's live on numerous affiliates across the country. In Tamale, we're live on Kesmi 107.1 FM. In White, it's on W93.5 FM, streaming live on Facebook, TV3 Ghana. Coming up, one immigration officer shot dead in Boko, two others in critical condition following attack on them. It is the latest incident to rock the troubled Boko area as tensions rise. We'll bring you the latest. Also, mixed reactions greet new Patriotic Party directive barring national, regional and constituency executives from contesting in constituencies with sitting members of parliament.
I would want to really see the reasons for that. There are constituency officers who have the capacity to also be members of parliament, and if they intend to contest, I feel that they should be allowed to do that.
This afternoon, we ask, where does this latest party move sit in Ghana's democratic dispensation? We'll be engaging a political analyst, plus the party is holding a press conference. We'll be live there for the latest, as they've been dismissing claims by the opposition NDC that the country has been run down by President Akufo-Addo. Also, management of the University of Ghana demands removal of judge hearing Hall of Residence case over claims of bias and possible conflict of interest. We'll hear from the university. Plus, Fair Wages and Salaries Commission and Internal Audit Agency begin nationwide audit of public sector payroll with a call on workers to refund all unearned salaries and allowances to avoid prosecution. But education sector unions say the exercise is much ado about nothing. We have details of these and more. Thank you for joining us from wherever you are. This afternoon, one immigration officer stationed in the Kusog area of the Upper East region has been shot dead by unknown gunmen. Two other officers, we understand, are currently battling for their lives at the Boko Presbyterian Hospital after sustaining severe gunshot wounds. It is the latest incident to rock the troubled area since a team of members of parliament on the Defense and Interior Committee aborted a fact-finding mission to Boko last month following fresh attacks there. My colleague Godwin Asidiba is joining me in studio. Godwin, what's the latest with respect to all that has been happening?
Well, Komla, the three officers we now know are Assistant Inspector Philip Morte, stationed at Misiga. We also know the Assistant Inspector Lawrence Afare, stationed at Kulungugu, and Assistant Inspector Eric Ayidia, stationed at Pulumankom Border Post. Lawrence and Eric, we are also told, are in critical condition currently in the hospital.
And what do we know about the circumstances surrounding the latest attack?
We know and also understand that they reportedly went to Boko Township in their private car to buy food on Monday at about 8 p.m. when the incident occurred. They were accosted by unknown gunmen who opened fire into them in front of the Boko police station.
And so those in critical condition, or we are told the two who are still in hospital, what are their condition?
Well, sources tell us after the gun incident, all the three were rushed to the Boko Presbyterian Hospital, but Assistant Inspector Philip Morte was confirmed dead on arrival. Rather unfortunate. And Assistant Inspector Eric Ayidia was transferred to the Tamale Teaching Hospital, whilst Assistant Inspector Lawrence Afare is currently being treated for gunshot wounds at the Boko Presbyterian Hospital.
And before you go, Godwin, has there been any word from the Immigration Service by way of a statement or any pronouncements?
A statement signed by Assistant Commissioner of Immigration, signed by the Boko Sector Commander Emmanuel Intim Danchi, and cited by 3 News, noted the remains of the deceased immigration officer has been deposited at the Boko Presbyterian Hospital morgue for preservation and autopsy.
Godwin Asidiba, my colleague there, bringing us those details of the latest rather unfortunate development in the Boko area. We understand there's been significant tension in the area since last night's attack, and we will be getting responses from the District Security Council, plus the police in the area. We understand the police commander will be addressing the media in a short time. We'll be bringing you all of those updates as they become available, while we also keep an eye on the 2 officers who remain in hospital. The Immigration Service has also indicated to us they will be making a public statement on the latest development in the course of time. You want to stay with us, we'll bring you all of those as they become available. Now, if you are a new patriotic party executive in the regional, national, and constituency level looking to contest the party's primaries, you may want to reconsider that decision, especially in areas with sitting members of parliament. This is because the National Council of the party has barred executives from contesting incumbent national members of parliament in these areas. Now, it has been greeted with mixed reactions from members of the party. While some say the decision is welcome, others are already up in arms. We'll hear some of the voices of those who are reacting to this. We will also be engaging a political analyst on the way forward. But let's hear from Member of Parliament for Mpraiso, Davis Ansa Opoku. He does not think the decision to bar the party executives at the national, regional, and constituency levels from contesting areas with certain MPs is a good idea.
It's been a normal practice. Last 4 years, MMDCs were not allowed to contest. I think the addition has to do with the constituency officers, and I would want to really see the reasons for that. There are constituency officers who have the capacity to also be members of parliament, and if they intend to contest, I feel that they should be allowed to do that. I think the wisdom of the party, the direction of the party is very clear. Looking at the kind of parliament that we have, it's important for you to give members of parliament some freedom to be able to focus on their parliamentary work. They really would not want any officer of the party to become an hindrance to the work that we do in parliament. If you look at how sharply divided parliament is now, I think it's important for you to also accord the MP some space. To have a constituency officer who would want to contest a sitting MP would be suicidal, because for instance, if I have a constituency officer in my constituency who wants to contest me, what I have to do is that I need to be focused on my constituency, be in the constituency now and then, which may affect my parliamentary work.
You heard the Member of Parliament for Mpraiso, Davis Ansa Opoku, will be getting on the phone line and speak to political analyst Dr. Asa Santi shortly. But Godwin is still here with us. Godwin, the timetable the party has issued, beginning the presidential primaries, what are the exact dates?
So the opening of nomination is starting from May 26, 2023, and the closing of nomination is June 24, 2023. We also have the special electoral college elections, which is happening on the 26th of August, 2023, and the National Congress on November 4, 2023.
And we also know about the parliamentary primaries. There is a timetable for those with constituencies with certain MPs and those without them. Tell us about it.
Yeah, so for the opening of the nomination, that will be starting on June 16, 2023, and closing of nomination July 14, 2023. And we have the elections itself, which will be happening on the 1st of August and end on 1st of August to 2nd December 2023.
Thank you, Godwin Asidiba. Let's get on the phone line now and speak to political science lecturer Dr. Kwame Asa Asante of the University of Ghana. Thank you very much, Doc, for joining us. So for some, the latest move by the parties to protect the party's MPs and probably strengthen their base. From your perspective, this is a good move? I think we have a choppy line to Dr. Asa Asante. We are working the phone line to raise him back on the line to get the perspectives from him on exactly what this means for the party going forward, and whether or not, according to some watchers, this is an attempt to crowd out some of the individuals who work for the party and have ambitions to take a step up by contesting as members of parliament. And you know, if you're just joining us, that the story is the NPP's National Council has barred the national, regional, and constituency executives from contesting sitting members of parliament in the upcoming primaries. Dr. Asa Asante is joining us now. Thank you, Dr. Asante. I was wondering if this latest directive by the party will affect them in any way, especially those members of the party who have worked so hard and have been harboring ambitions of taking a step up. Dr. Asa Asante.
Hello.
Right. I'm grateful you could join us. I'm grateful you could join us. Is it better now, Doc? I'm afraid we cannot hear Dr. Asa Asante. We will be working the phone lines to get a clear connection to him. Doc, is it better now?
Yeah, you speak and let's see.
Great. I'm asking this directive by the NPP to bar the national, regional, constituency executives from contesting sitting MPs. Some have said it's a good move to protect the base of these MPs. Others have said it is crowding out individuals. I'm afraid we cannot have that conversation with Dr. Sansante. We will be having him in the course of time to follow up on this. But we also know the NPP is having a press conference currently underway, which is being addressed by National Chairman Stephen Ntim. Among others, the party is expected to announce the roadmap for the primaries, even as they issued a statement sometime yesterday. But in the meantime, Stephen Ntim has been responding to some of the claims made by the NDC during what they describe as the State of the Nation address. Listen.
The SONA provided an honest assessment of our country's situation and sought the support of Ghanaians in addressing the challenges facing our country with hope and confidence, to the best of my recollection. Then on 20th March 2023, the opposition NDC, National Democratic Congress, as usual, produced a distorted account of the President's State of the Nation address in an attempt to ride on the emotions. It was an anticlimax because in the end, nothing new was said except the old exaggeration and deliberate misrepresentation of facts. The statement read by the NDC chairman, national chairman, Mr. Johnson Asiedu Nketia, was far from a document seeking to discuss the state of our country. There was no serious analysis of the economy, no assessment of sectoral developments, and no attempt to propose solutions to the current economic challenges. Ordinarily, we would refrain from responding to the NDC on the SONA. However, given the extent of misinformation contained in their statement, we owe it a duty to Ghanaians to strengthen the distortions designed to incite disaffection rather than to inform Ghanaians. My clarification of the NDC's statement will focus mainly on the economy and government. On the other matters to do with the misinformation about the size of the government and the size.
You heard that Stephen Ntim. He is the chairman of the New Patriotic Party addressing the press at an event which will also be expecting to outline the roadmap for the parliamentary and presidential primaries of the party. But let's cross over from the NPP to the NDC because we know vetting has been ongoing for the parliamentary aspirants across the country. In the Greater Accra region last night, many of the candidates were heard by the vetting committee. In the northern region, in the Ashanti region, many of the aspirants were here. Today, the exercise is continuing. Let's cross over now and speak to my colleague, Stanley Nibleu. He is here in the Greater Accra region. He's been monitoring proceedings. Thank you, Stanley. What can you report? Hello, Stanley. Stanley cannot hear me, but while we wait for Stanley to get on the phone line with us, let's hear from yesterday's events, which put together all the aspirants who appeared before the vetting committee yesterday by the NDC, including many of the aspirants at Adenta. Let's hear this report.
A charged jamboree involving supporters at the entrance of the Greater Accra Regional Secretariat of the NDC. Supporters of John Dumelo, who is seeking to contest the Ayawaso West Wogon seat, were disappointed over the rescheduling of their vetting to today.
Ayawaso West Wogon, we've not started the vetting at all. The candidates have not even presented themselves to us because early in the morning we had indication from the party that that constituency should be put on hold.
The incumbent MP for Medina, Francis Xavier Sosu, however, had his future cleared. He will be going unopposed after the vetting panel disqualified sole contender Prince Moses Zakari.
As you are all aware, everybody is at liberty to contest, but when you want to contest, you must contest in accordance with the rules.
Nana Oyebampo Ado and Linda Asibi Awuni, who are both contesting the Adenta seat, went through successfully.
At the end of the day, it is one NDC, one umbrella, one party, and our objective is to win December 2024.
So we are going back to the grounds and just go and increase our mobility in the constituency and make sure that we are winning and we are winning big.
The regional vetting of parliamentary aspirants is expected to end Wednesday, April 5. However, vetting of aspirant for the Ododo Diodio, Ayawaso Central and Amasaman constituencies have been put on hold for strategic reasons.
And on that note, we cross over live now to Stanley Nibleu, who has been monitoring the Greater Accra regional vetting of a parliamentary aspirants. Earlier, Zanetta Rawlings and many others were at the party offices to meet the committee. Stanley is joining us. Hopefully, we have a better connection to Stanley. Stanley, how far has the process traveled so far? Hello, Stanley. I'm afraid Stanley Nibleu cannot hear us from where he is. We will be trying one final time. As and when we are able to get Stanley, we will engage him, plus also the political analyst on the developments in the New Patriotic Party, which we know has now announced that none of its regional, national and constituency executives should contest the upcoming primaries in areas where they are sitting members of parliament. We have heard some of the MPs say it is a welcome move. Others have described it as an attempt to crowd out individuals who have harnessed ambitions to rise up the political ladder. Let's get on the phone line now, and Dr. Kwame Asansanti hopefully can hear me now and have a better connection. Thank you, Doc, for joining us. Hello, Doc.
Yes, sir.
Great. I was asking this latest directive by the NPP. Some have said it is a move to crowd out individuals who may have harbored ambitions to rise up. Some say this is just to protect the base of the NPP MPs in these areas where they are sitting. What do you think about this? It would appear our phone lines are not being charitable to us today. We will be fixing that, and we will get through all our resource persons as and when we are able to get them. You are still listening to the Midday News here on 3FM 92.7. Now, the Fair Wages and Salaries Commission and the Internal Audit Agency are beginning nationwide payroll audits in the public sector. The exercise, which is part of ongoing crackdown on payroll fraud by the Fair Wages and Salaries Commission, also aims to identify lapses and inequalities in the benefits and allowances of public sector workers. Ahead of the exercise, workers are being encouraged to refund and earn salaries to prevent prosecution, and also volunteer information to help identify ghost names from the payroll. Dr. Eric Udrosai is Director General of Internal Audit Agency.
The risky areas where we think this payroll and unearned salaries are on the increase. One, you take the educational sector of the Republic of Ghana, you take the health sector of the Republic of Ghana, you take the local government sector. I'm not saying it is widespread in these areas. They are risky areas, and if we don't keep an eye on the payroll of these sectors, it will keep bloating and it will affect us. And the other areas we are looking at is the tertiary institutions. The tertiary institutions are people who go on sabbatical and some never returns. Some go on steady leave with pay. After graduation, they fail to return, but have their names on the payroll. Some of them do not even come to work. There are instances where you have people who have been employed in the public sector. They go and their bosses ask them to stay at home because they don't have places to sit. So these people are at home, government is paying them. All those people, once we cite them in our report, we advise the controller and the Ministry of Finance to quickly delete their names from the payroll.
Dr. Eric Udrosai, Director General of the Internal Audit Agency. Well, the Chief Executive Officer of the Fair Wages and Salaries Commission, Ben Arthur, says there will be consequences for persons found to have illegally received salaries.
Anybody in receipt of any money on earn, maybe after today, we'll get you the necessary bank details from controller so that if you want to know where to pay it, we're encouraging you voluntarily to look for the account. We'll give it to you. Go and pay, because after we've given you this period, if you are not going to pay it and we come across you as the one who is in custody inappropriately of the public funds, we will let the appropriate entities take you on that.
You heard the Chief Executive Officer of the Fair Wages and Salaries Commission, Ben Arthur, there speaking, and we understand this particular audit has already begun, and they are going to be dealing with many of the agencies where it is believed there are ghost names and people are drawing unearned salaries. And let's get on the phone line now and speak to Ayikwe Awile Adukwe. He's Director of Communications for the Coalition of Concerned Teachers. Thank you for joining us. Now, the Fair Wages and Salaries Commission says the exercise is to help clean up the bloated payroll. You think this is an exercise required at this time? Hello, Mr. Ayikwe Awile.
Hello, good afternoon.
Great. I'm asking, do you think this exercise by the Fair Wages and Salaries Commission to attempt one more time to clean up what they say is a bloated payroll is what is needed at a time like this?
Thank you very much, and good afternoon to all your listeners. To me, I think it is much ado about nothing. If the system we are running is very efficient, and audit service and controller and accountant general are doing what they are supposed to do, I don't think we'll be so much alarmed to employ people to be going around to audit payroll from sector to sector. I think even when you come to the education sector, before salaries are even paid, you need to validate. So let me say in the school setting, the head teacher must validate. It goes to the education office. It ought to be validated again so that they will ensure that those that the head teacher has validated are really working in their school. Before it will be forwarded to controller and accountant general and the person's salary is paid. So for me, I know if they are ghosts, then we should ask the politicians. They know how those ghosts came about.
And Mr. Awile, what about the concern by the Fair Wages and Salaries Commission and the Internal Audit Agency that there could be individuals who may have gotten salaries they did not earn?
I can't hear you clearly. The line is very faint.
Well, I'm asking that per the Fair Wages and Salaries Commission and the Internal Audit Agency's perspective, some individuals on the payroll may have earned the salaries for work they did not do. So those are some of the people that are being targeted by this audit.
You said they have paid the salaries and...
Mr. Awile, can you hear me?
Yes, come again.
Yes, so the Fair Wages and Salaries Commission, they maintain that apart from clearing up the system of the ghost names, there are individuals who may have drawn salaries they did not earn. So they did not earn the salaries that have been paid them. Probably they did not show up at work the times they were supposed to have shown up at work and stuff like that.
So, if they did not earn the salary that have been paid them, how come they were paid those salaries? It means somebody's paid those salaries into their account. And they got the money. Somebody did not do his work well. So it is not about going to audit something. If I receive something in my account, by law, I am supposed to pay back. Because I think this money is not for me. But if one way or the other, at the end of the day, somebody pays in excess into my account, then somebody is not doing his work well. And we know some of these things happen. People are controller and accountant general. They will pay and then they will call you behind and say that and pay 40%, take the... Some of these, they are real. We know it happens. So if that is what they are going to look out for, fine, they should go and look out for it. But they shouldn't put the blame on the one who have been employed and doing his work and he is receiving his salary.
Thank you very much. Ayikwe Awile Adukwe is Director of Communications for the Concerned Teachers Association speaking to us. Let's also stay with education-related matters because the running battle between the University of Ghana and some students of one of the halls of residences, that's the Commonwealth Hall, is still continuing. The university wants the judge hearing the matter in court to be removed because of his latent affiliation to the hall despite being officially assigned to Ekwafo Hall during his undergraduate studies. Management of the school has been in a tussle with the students over destruction of property on campus, with the students challenging some sanctions meted out to the alleged errant students in court. The university management is by the certiorari cited by 3 News revealing the judge's relationship with the hall and his conduct of the case so far suggests a real likelihood of bias. According to the management, Justice Obri was, quote, officially attached to Equafo Hall as a resident during his undergraduate studies, and this notwithstanding, he stayed in Commonwealth Hall throughout his undergraduate studies and was actively involved in vandalism and its ideologies, unquote. In a supporting affidavit, University of Ghana's Pro-Vice Chancellor Professor Gordon Awandari said he is reliably informed that the judge during his student days was, quote, officially attached to Equafo Hall, but was at all material times during his studentship in the university resident at Commonwealth Hall. Professor Awandari said this situation has the propensity to affect the nature of the proceedings, for which reason he wants the judge restrained from the case. And that'll be all for our package this afternoon. If you log on to 3news.com, you find a lot more stories there. Up next is the business updates with Della Michelle.
Hello there, good afternoon. Let's now bring you some business news. Coming up this afternoon, experts lament excessive borrowing, wasteful expenditure and corruption as causes of Ghana's debt crisis at the Midday 3 Business Economic Sustainability Summit. Also, Ghana Union of Traders Association and Importers and Exporters Association hold a press conference to demand suspension of the 3 new taxes approved by Parliament. And the cedi starts week on a strong note with the $1 going for 11 cedis, 50 pesos. We have the details coming up shortly. Stay with us. Thank you for your company once again. Let's now get into our stories. Let's begin with the Africa Center for Energy Policy as is concerned about lapses in public procurement, saying some government and state institutions' breaches have been deliberate. Executive Director of ASEP, Benjamin Wache, said the sad situation has resulted in revenue losses to the state, partly accounting for the current debt crisis. He was speaking at the Midday Economic Sustainability Summit organized by 3 Business in collaboration with ASEP and Imani Africa.
But if you check some of the inefficiencies that are embedded, even at the point of spending a little on capital investment, it's incredible. I mean, there's one particular contract that we saw, LNR, where the Ministry of Finance 2016 wanted to support ECG to procure meters. They got credit facility from the Dutch bank through China Export Bank to be able to procure the meters, $80 million loan. Because the Ministry of Finance wanted LNR to do the procurement at all costs, they told Dutch bank to keep their money and they'll go and borrow at 7.5 instead of 2.95. So they went to borrow at a higher rate to keep the company. So these are the kind of procurement system that we do have, and it's actually serving the needs of politicians and not generating value for citizens.
You have the voice of the Executive Director of ASEP, Benjamin Wache. Let's still stay with the summit as the Executive Chairman of law firm AB and David says the country needs to rethink to tackle the perennial economic crisis that often requires a bailout from the International Monetary Fund. David Ofosu-Dotte said the interventions programs by successive governments have largely served politicians' parochial interest rather than providing meaningful relief to the people.
We ought to re-examine our mindset. I once actually tweeted something about the fact that where you have state-owned enterprises not doing well in the public sector, and we privatize them and they equally collapsed, the elite must re-examine their mindset. There's something wrong with our mindset. We actually stopped thinking long ago in this nation. Our attempt to restructure the economy itself has ended up in failure. In fact, there is almost nothing I can point out into this country, almost no major program that has succeeded. If you have one, just give me an example. When, for example, we have Tamawa having a debt, we set up a toll recovery debt. The debt is still there. The energy sector, the debt is still there. Every major program we have implemented to solve a problem has gotten worse. So nothing has been solved. And this is not about this government. I'm talking about from time immemorial. So again, I'm going back to something wrong with our mindset and how we do things.
You hear the voice of Executive Chairman of the law firm AB and David there. Let's cross over to the Marriott Hotel where my colleague Nanekia Mensah Abrampa has been attending this very important 3 Business Summit to find out what is happening. Nanekia, good afternoon and thank you so much for your time. So a lot of talks have been said, especially from our experts at this program, but what more can you tell us this afternoon?
Right, well, thank you for having me. And we agree this is the first edition of the Free Business Economic Sustainability Summit. And I just listened to you give a playback of what the discussants have been talking about. So just as the theme talks about finding solutions, because we always come out with a problem. We already know what our problems are. We've spoken about government debt issues. We've spoken about our journey to the IMF and the like. So just as the discussions were ongoing, we're about wrapping up here at the Marriott Hotel in Friday Airport. But key amongst the conversations they have raised with everything that is happening, looking at the agricultural sector, looking at our journey to the IMF, looking at the country's debt issues and matters arising. One key issue that has been running through the minds of all these discussants is the fact that Ghana's followers is the biggest problem. So the number of followers an individual has is what is accounting for the problems we have in this country. To them, whether the politicians or parliament or decision makers in the high places, it is the followers who push these people to the realm of affairs to make decisions for us. So until Ghanaians have the mindset to choose wisely and adapt to change, we would never have solutions. We always identify the problems. There are always summits and these meetings, these discussions going on and on every day. But after that, what next? That is a big issue on the table today at the 3 Business Summits. We come out with solutions, we identify the problems, but how sustainable are the solutions that we find? How do they even mature into reality? So until we change our mindset, that is the major issue today. Until we change the mindset, not just individuals, but businesses, stakeholders, governments in person, all the people in the high places, all the decision makers, even parliament, until we do that, we wouldn't have solutions. And with regards to the revenue bills that were passed in parliament just on Friday, I had the opportunity to speak with Professor Bokkin behind the scenes, and he's of the view that, yes, we give applause to Parliament. We may have passed these bills, but what next? It's part of our journey to the IMF, but does it solve the problems of the country? How sustainable are our debt issues when it comes to the economy? We have debt. We've gone to China. We've passed our bills.
Right.
We'll be getting more money. How sure are we that these revenues would even come out? So that is the major issue. Until we change our mindset, until we make up our minds that we want to see some changes, until we hold the policymakers accountable, according to Ben Boache, there will not be any solution. So he is asking that we should ask for governments, or we should rather track government spending as well as government behavior to ensure that everyone in the realm of affairs or the helm of affairs is accountable for everything that we do.
Right. Thank you so much for your time this afternoon. I've been speaking to my colleague Nanekia Mensah Abrampa, who has been giving us an update with regard to the ongoing summit that has been held as Marriott. As she mentioned earlier, we're going to see the conclusion of this particular summit, but we're going to have more details in our subsequent broadcast, so you need to stay with 3 Business there. But she did touch on a very important issue, giving way to our second story, that is the Ghana Union of Traders Association and Importers and Exporters Association are expected or did hold a press conference earlier today to demand the suspension of the 3 taxes approved by Parliament. Before we cross over to my colleague George Quainin, who was at this presser, let's first listen to John Awuni, who is executive member of the Food and Beverages Importers Association, who laments businesses are being harassed with multiple and counterproductive taxes.
We just have no understanding that they are in difficulty. The only time we are reminded that we are in difficulty is on the fact that businesses are being taxed more. Businesses are being called upon or harassed here and there and all that. Let them cut down their expenditure. But as it is now, it is the private sector that you are targeting. You are targeting. Nobody will employ henceforth. No business will expand henceforth.
And you heard the voice of John Awuni, who is the executive member of the Food and Beverages Importers Association, who is lamenting that businesses are being harassed with multiple and counterproductive taxes there. Let's cross over and speak to my colleague George Quenin, who was at the press conference earlier to give us an update. George, you're live on 3FM 92.7. Unfortunately, we lost George Quenin there. We are trying to get hold of him once again just to give us an update with regard to what the Ghana Union of Traders Association and Importers and Exporters Association have been saying with regard to this 3 taxes that have been approved by Parliament. You heard Nanekia mention earlier that even though Professor Bobkin says Parliament has done well by passing these bills because it is needed for the IMF deal, what next? There has been issues with regard to how government has been spending, of course, when it comes to the side of expenditure. When we have the revenue, how revenue is able to augment some of the necessary national policies that we are supposed to go through. Unfortunately, we are not able to cross over to my colleague George to give us that particular update from the press conference, but you need to stay with 3 Business as we're bringing you more details from this particular meeting that took place earlier today between the Ghana Union of Traders Association and the Importers and Exporters Association of Ghana. We also did take you to Marriott, where we gave you an update with regard to the ongoing 3 Business Summit, dubbed the Economic Sustainability Summit, organized by 3 Business in collaboration with ASEP and Imani Africa. Stay with us for all the details of this as well in a subsequent broadcast. My name is Adela Michelle Pay.